You know what it is, Tuesday, December 6th. Let's fade the noise and get that cash. Welcome to Daily Bets with the Spittin Statistician. I'm Dane Martinez. I am the Spittin Statistician here. And on Tuesdays, today and moving forward, I am overjoyed to have our guy, Mike Randle, also known as Randle Rant, join the show. How you feeling, Mike? This is your first soiree into Daily Bets. How's it going?
I love it here. It's like an after party, like a club I have here, Dave, with you. It's fantastic. I can't wait to join you every Tuesday. College hoops, you've been killing it so far here at FTN. We got great guests and picks. I just have to keep up the momentum, so I join in the crowd because this is a scalding hot place here, Daily Bets.
Absolutely, but don't worry about it. You know what? Some of the things I've learned in my travels is keep the expectations low, Mike, because then it's better to be able to hop over them as opposed to setting that bar real high. But we are doing well here on FTN. If you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. Make sure you smash that like button as well. And I got to also let you know, great stuff over at FTN. You can get a 3-day free trial. Check it out. If you go to ftnbets.com/free, you can get a little bit of a little taste to wet your whistle. Hopefully your balance will thank you. And then when you want the full subscription, make sure you use that promo code SPEEDS and you'll get 20% off. So let's get on into it here, Mike, because I got to tell you the truth. You're focused on college basketball. And right now, you know, I hear about the winter meetings in baseball. I hear about the NBA season, the college football playoff, NFL going into week 14. And I haven't really gotten as deep into college basketball just yet. So it's great to have you every week, you know, keeping me honest on this. So I guess my question is, you know, we've done Maui and Alaska and we got the Jimmy V Classic and the Coaches versus Cancer. But like at this point in the season, what do we really know about these teams? We've got 18-year-olds that still can't find their way to like the mess hall, let alone knowing how to run, you know, the pick and roll in the 2-3 zone. So what do we even really know at this point of the season?
We've learned a lot so far, Dane. First off, we've learned that the transfer portal with all these kids coming and moving back and forth, I put a value on great head coaches that have experience. So you've seen some big time programs like a Louisville, even in North Carolina, who was great last year under Hubert Davis, but it was his first year following Roy Williams, who won 3 titles. It's not that easy. So you're seeing some struggles with some big time programs. And you're seeing some small schools with great consistency, with players returning, and with a great head coach, a la Kent State, who almost won at Gonzaga last night. You're seeing them succeed as well. So what you see now is the transfer portal, which to me, I love it. Variables, it's content, it's kids moving back and forth. I get it, but it's going to emphasize and put a bigger spotlight on chemistry and great coaches and veteran coaches, not just at the big schools, also at the small schools.
Okay, no, definitely. I mean, the transfer portal has been huge in college football. We've seen that. No reason to think that in college basketball it wouldn't be the same. And that makes sense to me. Also, the coaches who can then mold that clay and bring talent in places people would want to transfer to. So definitely something to keep our eye on. I guess the other question I have for you before we kind of dig in to tonight's slate and some of the props and some of the sides that you like is what I like to understand here is if you could almost like power index some of the top conferences for me, right? Because in some of these preseason matchups, I mean, we're going to talk about the Jimmy V Classic later, right? And we've got, you know, Big 12 versus Big 10. We've got ACC versus Big 10, that sort of thing. I kind of want to know when I see these tournaments and these early season matchups, which conferences are maybe pegged to be stronger, deeper, or better than others. And I got to tell you, Mike, the reason is because then I use it as my cheat sheet in about 5 months when I'm filling out the bracket to know in a Sweet 16 matchup which conference, you know, which teams maybe went through a bigger gauntlet in their conference schedule. So as far as conferences go, you know, of the Power Five, the big boys, right? Like which one is really the deepest or really has the most elite talent and teams in your opinion?
Well, it's a great question. The deepest one is always the Big Ten, but the book
Hmm,
on the Big Ten is that they'll have a lot of teams in the top 25, but they won't make a lot of
right,
noise when it comes to the NCAA tournament.
right.
So Maryland, Purdue, Northwestern, Rutgers with a big win over Indiana, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan State. All of those teams are very solid. Any night you can go to the Big Ten, you'll have a fantastic matchup. However, let's not forget the fact that the last two national champions came from the Big 12 with Kansas and Baylor. I
Hmm.
also love the SEC. I love Kentucky. I love Tennessee, Auburn, a lot of great teams there. But the overall scheme, what you would think from what you hear from an average college basketball fan, is that the Big Ten is the deepest in terms of having the most talent top to bottom, but their elite teams will not make it to the Sweet 16 and beyond.
I see.
That will be your SEC. That will be your Big 12, even a Big East with UConn.
Okay. Creighton also seems to look pretty good
Sure.
this year
Mhm.
as well. So I'll see that's exactly what I need to remember, right? First weekend, Big Ten teams survive. Then second
Mhm.
weekend, have them get bounced out in the round of 16 or in the Elite Eight. I got to remember that exact thing. That's when then like the Arizonas and the UCLAs and the
Sure.
Kentuckys and the Tennessees will start to take over. So guys, here on FTN on Bet Daily Bets, we're getting you paid in March already, but let's dig into it a little bit more. So, Mike, tonight we do have the Jimmy V Classic, right? And that's
Mhm.
happening at Madison Square Garden. And we've got two kind of big time games. The first one of which is the Fighting Illini. You talked about the Big Ten being a deep team. Illinois kind of is almost prototypical of that, right? Like a rough and
Mhm.
tumble, good team, but do they have any elite status or talent to get them over that hump? They are facing Texas in the first game at the Garden tonight. How do you see this one? I mean, Texas is, top 5 in the country, have some absolute dudes on their squad. And I've got a point spread of about 2.5 or 3. How do you see this one playing out, Mike?
I'm going with Texas.
Okay.
Texas under Chris Beard. Chris Beard has made Texas, and he has a laser-like focus, right? Coming from Texas Tech, he wants to make Texas this big basketball school. He's done incredible work with the alumni. He's making it a home court advantage in Austin, which it normally never is. Now they come up here and they're going to play an Illinois team that is coming off a rough loss against Maryland. They played their first Big Ten game and they lost to Maryland. Illinois has been fine. They had a close loss to Virginia, but the rest of the teams, Dane, that they've played so far, Eastern Illinois, Monmouth, Lindenwood, Syracuse, not typically top 25 teams
Right.
this year. So I think they are suffering and they're going to go against a stifling Texas defense. I think this will be a lower scoring game. I think it's going to be on the neutral court, right? So you're not going to have
Right.
as many 3-pointers and baskets, but I think Texas mucks it up a lot better than Illinois was. Only Texas doesn't shoot 3-pointers very well, but they have enough scores, and I think their defense gets them through here. So I like them minus the small number on the neutral court here against Illinois.
Okay, and then let's go a little bit deeper, like into some of the props for this game. You expect a lower scoring game. You say Texas has some more players who can really get it done, but you're actually going on the under with one of the key guys for the Longhorns.
Yeah, I like Marcus Carr. Marcus Carr had some trouble last year with Chris Beard when he came over. Marcus Carr, the high scoring guard who came from Minnesota. And the question was, how would he react with a team that was winning as opposed to Minnesota, who was up and down? He could do whatever he wants, scoring 20 points per game. Last year, he struggled, 11.4 points per game. This year's been better, 15 and a half, but he's still, Dane, only shooting 43% from the field. So I'm going to go under 16 and a half points on DraftKings with Marcus Carr. Illinois plays good defense too. They're going to battle
Right.
as well. But if you look at Marcus Carr's big points, he has not had big games against some of the top teams. UTEP has a decent defense, only scored 12. Gonzaga, good team, only 16. That's still under this number. Then he put up 17, 18, and he did have 19 against Creighton. But the defense and the neutral court today, I think,
Okay.
has Carr right below that number. I think it's a point or two too high. Give me 14 or 15 points with Carr. We'll go under 16 and a half.
All right, fair enough. You've been talking about a kind of a defensive struggle. You also
Mhm.
mentioned the neutral court. What does that mean? That's like in general, Mike, one of the things I always like to say is we're not just giving you a fish, we're teaching you how to fish here, right? To become a better, right? So when you talk about the neutral site games, which, the Jimmy V Classic, a lot of these preseason or pre-conference scheduled tournaments are, what
Mhm.
what impact does that have? Do you believe in poorer shooting, like different sight lines, the neutral environment taking more time for teams to feel each other out in the first half? What's some of the rationale between kind of thinking about lower scoring games and those neutral site games?
Yeah, the neutral site games can be up and down. And we saw
Okay.
games in Maui that were very high scoring. But tonight, You're at Madison Square Garden. You have two really solid teams that are going to battle and that are defense oriented. Texas right now, 3-1-2, depending on the numbers you got, could be 4-1-1 to the under this year. So when you have a neutral court game by itself, I don't overvalue it. But you have a neutral court game between two well-coached teams that are going to battle, and it's going to be a neck and neck game. I say to myself, Dane, is it going to be a high scoring back and forth game on a neutral, or is it more likely to be low scoring? That's what it is. It has the perfect recipe today. Two great teams, both solid on defense. Texas, not a great three-point shooting team throughout the year. Now they're on a neutral, but they do lock down the opposition from three-point range, only allowing 25%. That's top 10 in the country. All those things together give me an under tonight.
All right, fair enough. That total, by the way, sits right at around 140. So they're talking about a game they think is going to be, 70-68, 71-69, something in that range. That'll be the first one from the world's most famous arena later on tonight. We've been talking about the Big Ten a bunch, though, Mike, and there's another game in the Big Ten tonight that I find interesting because, I don't know, is this just a standalone game, or is the Big Ten actually starting their conference schedule when it comes to Maryland and Wisconsin tonight? Because if they are, all of a sudden, they've got games that matter, and we haven't even, reached the Army-Navy game yet.
Yeah, that's it. Boy, that is a great reference. Just blew my mind. Yes, it's an excellent point. The Big Ten has always done this. They put one of their games ever since the schedule change at the beginning of December. So you have Illinois, who played Maryland. That was their first game. And now you have Maryland getting a second game in. This will be Wisconsin's first game of the year in conference, but this is going to be Maryland's second game. That's what we have tonight, and that's why I like Maryland. Dane, they are begging you to take Maryland in this game. Maryland 8-0, coming off the win over Illinois. Wisconsin, on the other hand, 6-2. Wisconsin favored by 1.5, but that is not always the case with these lines. That situation leads you to go the other way. Early in the season, handicappers, people who watch these games have the advantage. Maryland is the real deal. I didn't like them, but I've been impressed with how they played against Illinois. They are not only big inside with Donta Scott and Julian Reese, who rebound, and not only Donald Carey, who transferred from Georgetown, but Jameer Young has come over, had 24 points, 4 of 9 from beyond the arc. They can shoot outside. They can shoot inside. They're also excellent on defense. Kevin Willard is the head coach of Maryland, came over from Seton Hall. You and I both know in New Jersey here how tough they were defensively. I don't think Wisconsin has what it takes to win this game on offense. It is another low-scoring game. It's another conference game, just like Maryland played against Illinois. But in this case, I will gladly take the 1.5 or just grab the money line if you want. Right. I think Maryland gets it done in Madison, Wisconsin, which is not an easy place to play, but this team does not have the offensive talent it's had in the past.
I fear the turtle. I'm with you. I might just take the money line, and then watch. They'll lose by a point, and I should have really taken that plus 1.5. It always happens that way. It always happens that way. But I like you going for the gusto there on the money line. The last game I want to talk to you about tonight is the second game at Madison Square Garden tonight. We've got Iowa and Duke. Now, you've been talking about head coaching. You've been talking about that as it relates to the transfer portal and other topics that we spoke about already today. Obviously, the question is what this Duke team looks like early on with a new head coach, right? Obviously, Coach K is gone. That's what the national kind of spotlight will be. I cannot fathom what the over-under on times they'll reference or, throw platitudes towards Krzyzewski on the broadcast tonight. I'm going to set it at 1,001,500,000 and probably still take the over, right? But what does this team look like? What should we expect now that Coach K is not on the sidelines? Because, let's not get it twisted. They still probably have one of the best recruiting classes in the country, blue chippers left and right. And this might be a good little kind of experiment on if it's coaching or if just the talent of the players is enough for the Blue Devils. So what do we expect here tonight with Duke and Iowa?
What do we expect with the 3-7 against the spread Duke Blue Devils? We expect us to take Iowa, and that's what we're going to do. Two things at play here, Dane. Number one, we do not, as a public entity, give credit enough to Fran McCaffrey in Iowa. Fran McCaffrey came over from Siena years ago. Iowa produces every single year. They're well coached. They're a veteran team, and they're number one in the country in turnovers. You are not going to turn Iowa over. So now we have a Duke team, still very young. John Shire, first time as head coach. How have they done so far? Well, 3-7 against the spread. Didn't cover against Boston College. Boston College got a backdoor cover on them last game. They lost to Purdue, got absolutely destroyed by Purdue. Kansas, they lost to. They battled a close game at the neutral site to Oregon State, which is a disaster. This game, Iowa can shoot the three, veteran team. Last year, Keegan Murray led this team. He's now with the Sacramento Kings in the NBA. Yeah. His brother, Chris Murray, now on the floor. He is inherited. I think this is a veteran team with Iowa. They are well coached. They don't turn the ball over, and they can score in bunches. And on the other side, you still have a Jenga puzzle of all these talented players that have to be put together. Sorry, John Shire. I don't think you're taking it tonight. I like the Hawkeyes.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Even what you were talking about, the Big Ten in general at the top of the show, right? Experience, kind of quality, deep squads in that conference. Iowa, one of them with the experience, being careful with the ball against some 18-year-old high flyers that are still potentially playing street ball and haven't learned the offense just yet. So I like that. And we're going with Iowa plus the 3 points at Madison Square Garden in the nightcap there of the Jimmy V Classic. All right, I've got one more question for you because I saw some of the plays you had for your college basketball show, which, by the way, you also have to subscribe to that here on FTN. You got to get all the great content from FTN, especially if you want a little bit of extra cash going into the holidays. But I saw some of the teams that you had, right? And I was like, oh, these are a couple small schools I want to ask about because I asked you the conference question, scouting for March. The other thing I'm scouting for March, honestly, Mike, is potential Cinderellas out there. And I saw a couple of schools that I want to ask you about because I think there could be some buzz in a few months of them. One of them is Yale and another is Iona. Talk to me about Iona, especially when you say coaching matters because, Iona, they've got a coach we all know, don't they? So who are some of these teams? Are these both potential Cinderellas? Tell me a little bit of a thumbnail on Yale and Iona and why you like them tonight.
I love Iona with Rick Pitino. He's done a fantastic job taking over from Tim Cluse, who was great at Iona as well. And prior to that, guess who it was? It was Kevin Willard, who we aforementioned, who went to Seton Hall and now ended up at Maryland. Yes. They run, they get up and down the floor. Pitino has Nelly Jr. Joseph, one of the best big men in the country that most people don't know about. They do not turn the ball over. They get up, they defend you. This is a great game against St. Louis, who Dane I have picked on my show multiple times this year. I love St. Louis, Travis Ford, Yuri Collins backcourt. They're a great team as well. But at home here, Iona getting points. I like them, but it is a matchup of two of those smaller schools that I absolutely like. Same is true for Yale. There definitely is a bias, of course, against the Ivy League schools. Right. I remember back in 2013, Steve Alford coaching New Mexico. They won the Mountain West. They won the Mountain West tournament. They got a 3 seed in the tournament. He had the net around his neck, and they're asking him, oh, you're playing Harvard. Harvard's never won an NCAA tournament game. And he was fine. He wasn't dismissive, but he certainly was confident. Harvard goes out and wins that game, and they've won multiple games since. Yale is that type of team. Rebound under Coach Jones, defense, don't give you second chances, don't turn the ball over. Absolutely love them as well. And I'll give you one more here that I mentioned today. Folks, James Madison is for real. They get up and down the floor. They're a very small school. Mark Byington, great job. Last year, Dane, they're in the CAA. They were not allowed in the conference tournament because they left to go to the Sun Belt, which was ridiculous. This team is on a mission. They're playing Virginia. That's an intrastate rivalry game there tonight. That's another one I like. So you got it. Iona, Yale, even St. Louis, and James Madison, all 4 teams you should look out for when we hit the NCAA tournament.
No, absolutely. I'm going to file that away. Keep an eye on those teams. We also like Texas laying the points tonight, and we don't like the Duke Blue Devils. We may like them when it comes to March, but at this point, they're still kind of figuring it out on a number of levels against what you say is another one of these kind of lunch pail, blue-collar, Big Ten teams that know how to handle the ball and know this kind of environment. So those are our plays. We're going with Texas. We're going with Iowa plus the points. And we like some of these potential Cinderellas to, start to try on their glass slipper and get kind of groomed for that in Yale, James Madison, Iona, and even St. Louis facing off against Yale, I believe, tonight. So
Iona.
That's
Iona.
St. Louis and Iona. Got it. Thank you for that, Mike. And, thank you because A, you're making me smarter. B, you're getting me a little bit more cash because I'm going to run after we record this and put in all of those plays. And quite frankly, everybody watching this, you should too. This is another edition of Daily Bets in the Can for my guy, Mike Randle. I am Dane Martinez, the Spittin Statistician, saying, like I said, fade the noise. Let's get this cash. We will have Mike back on every Tuesday moving forward to give us the insights on college basketball. But check us out tomorrow on Daily Bets. I'm going to have Kyle Murray. He handles our NBA projections, and we got a nice slate in the association tomorrow. So we'll be talking to him about some of his props as well. So keep it locked for that. Subscribe to us there on FTN Bets, because you will thank us later on. And quite frankly, so will your balance. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Mike, for hanging out with us today. We'll see everybody tomorrow once again on Daily Bets.